Customers Matter is a podcast about customer-centred, omni-channel marketing in an age of digital disruption, mobility and the Internet of Things. It's hosted by John O'Neill, a management consultant and founding owner of Commotion, an agency specialising in customer experience design and delivery.
So today I'm in Melbourne, just by Albert Park, the venue for the Grand Prix. Great spot, great weather surprisingly, and I'm joined by Ilya Frolov. Ilya is the General Manager of Infinite Rewards, which manages reward programs and platforms, including for a bunch of universities, but also many corporate clients. The company aims to really provide a solution for acquisition, engagement and retention of customers. And Ilya is a man of many talents. He, as well as running Infinite Rewards, is also an investor and advisor for Oxygen Vent, sourcing venture capital for technology startups, and he even oversees an architectural and interior design firm, Studiomint. It's fair to say that Ilya's provided strategic consulting direction to executives and management across an array of sectors, technology, finance, telecommunications and, of course, internet-based companies. Today we're going to talk about how all of this came to pass, to really get an understanding of what Ilya does to innovate both around his own customers and what his reward company does to really make data in particular work for their client, for his clients. We're also going to learn a little bit about the nuts and bolts that sit behind, I guess, ultimately a really great loyalty marketing program, and data is the key, as I've mentioned. So, Ilya, welcome to Customers Matter.
Thanks a lot.
As I said in the introduction, you're a man of many talents. Tell us about Infinite Rewards, how it started, and how you decided that there was a need for a platform like this.
Sure. So, Infinite Rewards has been around for quite a while now. It was actually the brainchild of serial entrepreneur Larry Kestelman, who founded and sold Dodo a couple of years ago. So in the Dodo, the telecommunications company, yeah, the Dodo where the internet flies. So the big tagline that comes from there. So it arose early during their life cycle of Dodo, being a very competitive market. Telecommunications was tough in the early days, and really the products that they were selling was internet broadband, and there was not much differentiation around during the early days. And so what they were trying to do was trying to innovate on ways of acquiring customers. So their main focus, of course, was building the brand, and you would have seen it around, plenty of commercials around. They were sponsors of a lot of sports activity, but they still needed to innovate on different ways of acquiring customers. And one of those ways was providing incentives. They went around and shopped around Australia to see if there was an opportunity to use something off the shelf. Couldn't find anything and realised that we should just do this ourselves.
What was your job back then? Were you involved with the business at this stage, or did this predate you?
This predates me,
Yep.
So a couple of years before my arrival and running the firm. So it was. I didn't see the idea, but it was very much Larry's brainchild then. So,
what was the basic principle that what was he looking for that he couldn't find, and what did he do that was different?
So it was all about finding an incentive, something that provided value at a low cost from a business perspective, but provided enough value for the customers where you're selling internet broadband, so give them something else or give something else to the customers that they'll enjoy or need or want. So by sort of combining that package and packaging it up, which is what he was trying to work out, what is in the market that was out there.
So ultimately, how did Infinite Rewards differ from other programs that are in the market? What set it apart from, obviously there are many loyalty programs. I was at a conference recently and there were, literally hundreds of loyalty programs that were cited that had hundreds of thousands and in some cases millions of customers in Australia. So there's a lot of stuff out there. What separates Infinite Rewards both back then and today?
Well, back then there was pretty much there was very few competitors out there, almost none in terms of the reward space. This is early 2000s, so everything was still early days in technology. There was nothing really around. Really, the only ones that were around, I believe, was still the Qantas frequent flyer points program, and that was about it. So there was nothing really of tangible value that you could provide something interesting to the clients. So it was born out of that, and they basically collated a number of different brands together, trying to get some exclusive discounts, packaging that up into a nice presentable package, and providing things like show and save in restaurants and dining and those kind of offers and rewards during the early days.
So when did you come along, and how did you come to get involved in Infinite Rewards itself? What was the process?
What was the catalyst, right?
Yeah.
I joined Dodo 2009, and during the days of that I was helping out as a software engineering manager at that stage. It was only a consulting job, but at that time I was at the end of my IT career, if you could call it that, and I wanted another challenge. And I met Larry through Dodo during that stage, and he said, look, I have this other business. It has a huge potential. There's a massive technology driver behind that. You could really turn this into something. And that's when I said, yeah, this is a no-brainer. I have to take advantage of this.
So you brought technology know-how to a customer-facing loyalty scheme. What happened? How did you combine that technology know-how and to what effect?
Well, I suppose what I try to do is I look at it from, let's have a look at the current process from onboarding all the way to the experience, and trying to understand how can technology improve that process, either through efficiency or other means. And so I came through it trying to understand, okay, well, providing a benefit is fairly stock standard. You get an offer, you show that offer, someone goes and redeems that offer. So it's quite a fairly straightforward process. During that time when I started join, the technology or the internet era started to definitely flourish. It was very much in place. It was the onset of mobile. So it was, how do you now take that program to the next level? It wasn't about the old show and save cards that everyone loved and hated at the same time, but it was, how do you transform that into the next evolution of the program? And that was sort of my mandate and my desire to sort of turn that around.
So what did you do? What?
Well, yeah, so we were probably one of the first to focus on online rewards as well. So it wasn't just about the show and save. It was, how do you encompass the onset of online shopping, and how do you leverage that? So we started to take that on board. How do you streamline that process? How do you provide offers around the world, not just in Australia? So shopping became quite open global shopping became quite open to everyone now. So how do you take advantage of that? So we started looking and exploring at ways of trying to enhance the customer experience from a rewards program, because it was all about, for us, it was all about engagement. How do you keep the client engaged? How do you make it interesting? How do you make it relevant? So that was the key. So
what's all that meant for the growth of the program from 2009 to today? How big is the program now? How's it grown? How wide and how deep is it?
Good question. So look, I'd love to say it's grown tenfold and it's going gangbusters. We've had our ups and downs. Technology has definitely been the driver to our resilience, I could say that, but it's also been the burden as well, because there's been so many other products and campaigns and companies that have risen during the last 10 years that have become and gone as competitors. So, as an example, the daily deals phenomenon that came, it was a massive competitor and hurt our bottom line during a large period of time, because effectively we competed on a discount model. However, we were offering one set of products and exclusive offers, and they were offering another set of products which were discounted heavily, but they were short term, whereas ours was longer term discounts and forever. But we had smaller discounts, and because people just wanted the discount, they didn't care how long it took. So those kind of competitive pressures and forces definitely made us rethink, how do we continue evolving? And I suppose looking back and reflecting, our success today is we are still in place, we're still growing, we still have very strong, loyal corporate clients that are in place, and still opening up new opportunities in traditional sectors. And that's what's really, sort of blown me away, is despite all the pressures that are around you externally, we'll still manage to, work through it and still succeed at the end of it. So,
can you tell me about, just give me a feel for the cross section of your customers and the sorts of opportunities that their customers are given through your program?
So recently, more so recently, we're focusing on 3 core target audience for us. The transactional corporate client, and what I mean by that is where there's a transaction between the brand and the customer. So utilities companies is a great example. A telco, an energy company is a transactional experience. Our other main audience is the education sector, so universities is big. And the third key area is associations and industry membership areas. If you break it down, the next level of who is really the core and who really uses it for us, it really is for end users or customers that are financially conscious, that understand that with the cost of living is increasing, how do you consciously go out there and make sure that you can save intelligently? And so when we approach our clients, we try to get an understanding of their customers and whether the program does fit for them, because unfortunately, the GPA or the medical association really sort of doesn't work. Our program really doesn't work with them because that's not really the customer base at the end.
But for a student, it's looking to save a buck.
But for a student where they're really struggling just to pay rent, it's a great program.
So you found a niche where you can offer genuine value add discount, surround the customer with relevant offers that actually help them with the cost of living.
Correct.
That's the bottom line.
That's the bottom line, yeah.
Which is quite a different model to a frequent flyer points model or what have you.
Which is an aspirational model.
Yes. And you mentioned earlier you originally had views that people would shop all over the world. I'm assuming in this model it's probably more about shopping closer to home for your customers.
Correct, and we've evolved from that as well and realised that it's possible to offer 1,000, 10,000, 20,000 different brands and companies where they can save, but it's really the essentials is where they're really wanting to sell. It's the everyday life that they're trying to save on money. So it is the supermarkets, it is the petrols, it is those aspects of life that people really want to save and are conscious about it because that's their biggest expense item at the end of the month.
Now, Ilya, there's another dimension, of course, to loyalty programs these days, and I touched on it in the introduction, and that's data. Tell me what the role of data is in a loyalty program these days, and why is it so important?
So data is king, not just in loyalty, but everywhere, I believe. It's a key part of every business that should be running right now. It's something that management should be looking at and aspiring to build on and evolve and understand and effectively create strategy and insights for their business. So for us in particular, we look at collecting as much data for ourselves, but also for our clients, and that's part of the value add that we provide to our clients. So for us, data is important because it helps us understand customer behaviour, what their purchasing behaviour is, how their activity on our site, their satisfaction level. So that's really sort of our key data that we.
So if we broke this down really simply, I'm in university, I'm using your loyalty program. I've got a bunch of students who've taken up that program. What could I know by virtue of how I might work with you and your loyalty program and the data you capture that I wouldn't otherwise know? What are the sort of things I can learn and how might that shape what I do?
Sorry, just repeat the question. So as the corporate client, as the university themselves, or the university students?
If I'm the university,
right, university,
and I've engaged you, the loyalty program is adding some value to my students, but there's data I'm capturing. What can I learn about my students who are my customers if I'm the uni that I wouldn't otherwise know by using your program? What are the sorts of, and how might I apply that knowledge?
So I suppose what we provide our university clients is once again that purchasing behaviour, and understanding and the timeliness of it. So when they're making certain purchases at certain times of the year, you could try to, I suppose, how they interpret that data for their advantage. It could be around certain initiatives that they have, and what I mean by that is particularly around student fees. That could be something that would provide some insights to them, understanding that during this particular time it becomes very difficult for them. So how could they potentially use that information to de-stress or what's the word I'm looking for?
Take some of the pain
away effectively from the student. Also during the life cycle or the semester of the student, how do you help them out from an accommodation level, from a student fees, from a books, from a...
So really what you're saying is I could potentially see the spending behaviours over time of the student and understand when they feel like they can spend and when they feel like they can't.
Correct. Yeah, to some extent, yes. And you can take that information and start to unpack just as a general cohort, not just on an individual student level, but just as a cohort of students. You can start comparing year on year, semester on semester, on how the students, effectively spending behaviour is, but also their financial status is. And that could be, used as an initiative within the university to provide further assistance. So.
Okay, I see. So we talked about at the outset some of the diverse businesses you're involved in. Can you tell me about Oxygen Vent and indeed also Studiomint, because they are different, but you've mentioned technology underpins them.
Correct. Yeah. So Oxygen Ventures was born out from the acquisition of Dodo. So when Dodo was sold to M2 in 2012, I spoke to Larry and was having coffee with him and having a chat and asking what he was going to do next. And he was saying, not quite sure yet.
Because it was a fairly healthy exit.
It was a very healthy exit as well, yeah. And so we were brainstorming, and he asked me, he goes, look, if you had this much money, what would you do? And I said, look, I'd love to just invest in technology companies. That would be my passion, and help other businesses grow and build and support them. And he goes, fantastic, great idea, let's do it. And so that's how Oxygen was born. And basically that was the premise of it. It was really using my technology background and passion, Larry's ability to build brands and build businesses on a large scale, and help entrepreneurs and budding founders grow and help their businesses, support them in that way.
So the Oxygen Ventures Fund, how big is it? How many businesses have you invested in, and how's it rolling?
Yeah, so it's been we've been at it for 6 years. We've invested in 6 companies. With a total of, because we've done initial investments and follow-ons, so it's totaling close to 15 million. Still looking at other opportunities, but as everything, we want to make sure that these are successful rather than placing more bets. So we're focusing on them and helping them grow and helping them succeed. So. And
what's the spread of the sorts of technology businesses you've invested in? What are they doing, and where are they at in the maturity curve?
Still early stage, I would say. Look, they're all they're all 2-3 year old companies. They're still very early. They're still growing, building their teams, exploring and exploding internationally as well. So the cross section of what the companies are, they have an underlying theme, and that's data, which is the theme of today, and databases. How do you build big databases as well? So a couple are in the ad tech space, a couple is a core networking technology, and another one is a professional marketplace as well. So.
And have you set yourself across the portfolio a goal on ROI, and when you hope to see what from the spread of investments, or is it really more philanthropic?
I think a bit of both. There was a bit of altruism initially into it, but of course, Larry is a businessman, and the aim is to provide a return on investment. Look, for us, success is making sure that we have healthy exits. We don't have a benchmark of what we were trying to achieve. It was making sure that they don't fail, and by that, if we provide them with enough support, mentorship, guidance, and advisory, they should be successful.
So you've been doing that for 6 years, and then, of course, there's the architectural and the interior design firm. How does that fit in?
Yeah, exactly. So that one was a doozy. So I suppose one of my early passions in high school was definitely architecture. That was something that I had an eye for and wanted to be involved with, but ended up being a mechanical engineer instead. But it was funnily enough that my very good school friend had the same passion and vision, and she ended up being an interior designer. We reconnected many years later, and there was a project that was outstanding, and I said, you should do this. It's going to give you a great opportunity, and out of that was born a company. Not much thought behind it, to be honest, but today what I've really focused on is trying to look at ways to disrupt that archaic industry, because nothing's changed.
And they often see their clients as patrons almost, rather than as businesses that need to get a return,
Correct.
Whether it's residential or,
commercially, exactly. So it is a really interesting business. It's a non-technology business that I'm trying to put technology into it. And the way that I'm trying to do that is purely from a process perspective and a customer-centric perspective, and trying to understand data, trying to understand the customer, and trying to understand how to build a business, not just on the design aspects.
So with Infinite Rewards, you're running as the CEO.
Yes.
The other companies, the venture capital businesses you've invested in, and Studiomint, what's your role in those businesses?
So for Oxygen Ventures, the investment director, and also I sit on the board of some of the portfolio companies. For Studiomint, also a director and a shareholder of that company. So I'm more of an advisor, high level, as well as when I need to, I get deep down in the roots of it as well. So
this is going to keep you pretty busy. What do you do in your spare time, and how much of it do you have?
Look, I've got 2 kids, so they take up the rest of my spare time, and I make sure that they get as much attention from me as possible, because they are the future.
How old are they?
So they're 6 and 3 right now, so 2 boys. So.
Joyful thing.
Yes, exactly. So look, everything needs to be a balance, and what I love and what motivates me is the ability to multitask, have a number of things going on at the same time. I have the ability to apply different methodology, different thinking from one company and industry and sector and problem to another, and you can start sort of working out how can this all work and gel together, and that's sort of one of the things I love, and draw the thread and the dotted lines between certain situations and go, okay, well, there's an opportunity here. How do we take advantage of it, and how do we streamline it?
And so, Ilya, you and Larry have remained friends as well as in business together. So how often do you guys catch up these days, and what's the relationship like?
Look, the relationship's still just as strong as it was. We try to catch up as much and often as possible in our busy days. And he's on his path. He's got a lot of other new ventures. The NBL is an avid property developer as well, so that keeps him busy. I've got my kids that keep me busy, so we definitely try to cross paths and make sure that we have a healthy discussion about the future and what's going on in the businesses, and that's really key and critical to success.
And just finally, if you were sort of looking at the world today and advising businesses that were sort of either being disrupted or thinking about disrupting, this combination of understanding your customer, technical know-how, and really working out how to innovate with those ingredients. Do you think is that the most important stuff, or is there something even bigger than that, which is about the passion that drives it all? What would you say is the secret to surviving and thriving in this day and age?
It's definitely a passion, but passion is usually born out of the founder and the CEO. And if it is a startup or if it's a small enterprise, that definitely is the driver. It's the vision behind that person that's driving the company forward. I have this philosophy with all the startups and the founders that I speak to is make sure you're not behind the desk. Get out there, speak to your customers, speak to your clients, speak to your end users. You have to understand what their opinion is, how they're using your product, what you should change, because otherwise you'll just be wasting a lot of time. And that insular approach is usually the failure of a lot of businesses. For larger enterprises, success really, for me personally, revolves around customer first approach. That mindset that brand loyalty is starting to become quite frivolous these days, and people remember experiences, they don't remember brands anymore because there's just so many out there. So if you can focus on being a customer-centric, service-orientated company, no matter what you do, whether you're selling products or services, I think that's the way that you'll be able to succeed in today's day and age. Innovate, be agile, making sure that you're always at the forefront of technology, to understand how you can leverage that and use that to your advantage rather than fear it. Other than that, there's so many more things that happen and that are very specific to each industry and each company. But as a broad brush stroke, that's sort of my philosophy on business today. So.
Thanks for sharing with us today, Ilya. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of Customers Matter. We encourage you to subscribe and, if you like it, rate and review it. Head over to commotion.com/podcast. That's KOMOSION.com/podcast.